And there's my little voice warning us this call will be recorded.
Hi, Arwen.
Hi, everyone. You are listening to me chat with Ellen Lorenzi-Prince, who I invariably say Eileen because I switch letters around when I look at your name. But Ellen is the creatrix of Tarot of the Crone, the Minoan Tarot, the Dark Goddess Tarot. Am I missing any?
Oh, just a couple of majors only decks that I made, a little bit more for fun. One was called Pandora Tarot for the Greek goddesses, and the other one was Paleo Tarot, actually finding all of the project too.
She is, y'all, one of my favorite decks that I use. And if you've watched any of my tarot scopes, you've seen this deck come up a couple of times, and that's the Dark Goddess Tarot. I love the Minoan, but I really sync with the Dark Goddess. It just, for whatever reason, it reached in and popped me upside the head and said, "You're going to work with me." So it's an amazing deck.
It did that to me too, actually. It was very magical in its creation. It was the only time I've ever felt that feeling. I know I've had it sometimes when I've been writing, like the words have already existed and I'm transcribing them.
Yes.
Working on a Dark Goddess was the only time I felt I'm moving my pencil across the paper, and it's if I'm moving an eraser and revealing the goddess that's supposed to come out. It was an amazing experience. And then it's also been, after I created it, it was also like, oh gosh, now I have to get to know this as an oracle, an actual tool. And that was a whole other learning curve for me, even though I created it, because the experiences were so different. But it's been magical. I love it too.
It's truly, truly an amazing deck. Now, can you tell us a little bit like who or what is your creative muse? Do you have one? How does that hit you? Because I know we're going to talk about your upcoming project too, because I'm super excited about that one. But what's your muse? Who is your muse, or what is your muse?
Oh, well, I could say the goddess, but I don't see the goddess as some, blanket being.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to describe that. But as, I read Bullfinch's mythology when I was 9 years old, and it just struck me so much because at that time, all I'd ever read, the only female characters came from these fairy tales, really. And it's like, okay, well, do I have to die or get married? What if I don't want to do either of those things? That's supposed to be at the end of the story. And so to read these stories of goddesses who would just have these powers and did as they pleased, and if they screwed up, they didn't care. They just kept on going, doing as they pleased.
Right?
And it just was so amazing to me. I was growing up in actually a suburb of Chicago, and this would be like the early 60s, and I would read everything. Like I would read the whole newspaper, and they actually had then in the Chicago Tribune jobs for men, pages of all of these varied and interesting stuff. And then there was the page of jobs for women, nurse and teacher and secretary.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't really want to do any of those things. The only thing that sounded vaguely interesting was exotic dancer, but I didn't know what the word exotic meant, and like to dance, but not in front of anybody. But, so I figured that wasn't going to work either.
Darn, what we missed, y'all.
So these stories and feeling how important it is for women to feel like it's okay for them to do as they like, so often you get, and I do, I'm a grandmother, new grandmother.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I babysit and want to give a lot to my family, but still, that's not all of me, and there's more of me that needs to come out and be valued, and I feel that is for every woman or every person, that
yes, beautiful.
They need that validation in their own power and their own experience and their own abilities, that they're worthwhile.
Absolutely, and learning how to validate themselves as their own validator, I think, is a significant step for all of us, because we're not taught to do that. We're taught to look to others. Now,
and that's the great thing about tarot too, because it encourages that that kind of inner focus that allows the rest of those outer voices to disappear a little bit and to get into that inner wisdom.
Absolutely. Now, tell me a little bit about your most recent project, the one that if people went to your website, they would see as your most recent release. How did that come about?
My most recent release would be the Minoan Tarot.
Right, yeah.
And which came out last year. And of course, I've always loved Greek mythology and then also Greek art, but the Minoans are even more enchanting in a way, although even more distant, because they were 1,000 years before the classical Greek culture. So they are much more ancient. But visiting the island of Crete and the island of Santorini and seeing all the art, I was visiting there with my husband and my daughter and one of her friends on a trip. I think that was in 2000 or something like that. And yeah, we were just looking at all the art, and my husband happened to say, "Oh, Minoan Tarot would be great," and I was like, "Yeah." And then, it took some years before I had the time or the space or whatever to sit down and do it. But yeah, it's just such a wonderful culture, goddess-centered, celebrating nature, celebrating sexuality. They had cross-dressing and had no problem with that. And they did not, unlike the Egyptians or the Babylonians, their contemporaries at the time, there was no exaltation of the king and war that just was, so it's just, I wanted to show people that, a peaceful, creative, technologically advanced society, because they had waterworks that weren't, replaced or redone until the Romans came along, 1,500 years later. Yeah. But that this is a real part of our history, and I feel that they aren't known as well as, say, the Egyptians.
I very much agree. I grew up, I was a reader. I read, if it didn't move faster than me, I was reading it. And I went to the public library so much. My mom used it as a babysitter, and I mean, I went in, I loved it. I'm sure the librarians are like, "Good Lord, here she comes again," because they moved me at 9 years old. I'd read my way through the children's section, and one of the librarians, I'm sure it was just in sheer frustration, handed me The Hobbit.
Oh, wonderful.
But from there, I read people like Mary Renault, and the Minoan Tarot makes me remember how much I loved her books. Because she wrote about, in my memory of it, The King Must Die, was about Minoan culture. But it's,
right.
So it was really, I love that deck, the Minoan deck, for that. It makes me go right back to that. So thank you for that deck.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, Ellen, do you have a certain ritual before you begin your work? Is there anything that you do? And I don't always mean magical. I know for me, like when I cook, I got to clean the kitchen first. But is there anything that you have to do before you start work?
No, not really. I think it's more, or nothing on the outside at least. I think it's actually just a more internal process of being able to separate from my other concerns spinning around in my head, and just like allowing that, okay, yeah, there's all this other stuff going on, and yeah, I've got to do all of this. But for right now, I can just, if I come into my room and I shut the door and I just say, okay, just for an hour or whatever, these things can wait outside the door.
Perfect. Now, why did you want to create a tarot deck? What made you in the very first place put one together for us?
Oh, well, I've been reading tarot and looking at different decks and feeling like, maybe if I did one, I would tweak this or do that, but it was actually, when was it? 1997 or 98 or something like that. There was an online tarot group called Tarot.
Yes.
And this is before it got all, I don't even know what it is now because I haven't been there in years. But before it got all very ranty with all the historians saying who's right about this or that, Yeah. And it was a little more creative in sharing back in the beginning. And somebody had just started a conversation about, out of the major arcana, who could you see as the maiden or the mother or the crone? And so I wrote back and I said, well, this could be the crone, this could be this. And then I just said, I could do a whole deck for the crone because it seemed like all the ideas were just coming up. And, it was just an offhand comment that I made, right, and threw out there until somebody wrote back and said, let's see it then. And, well, of course, that's something I could have just ignored or laughed off, but there was that, that resonance inside you. It was like a gong going off, like, okay. And so that was Moonchild from Tarot L, thank you for that.
It really is, and the Tarot of the Crone's one I don't have yet, so I'll be talking to you about that offline about how I can get my hands on that. But what about, do you think that your own heritage, your own cultural, and by heritage, I really am talking about your ancestry, like who your people were. Do you think that has anything to do with how you do your tarot creation?
Oh, I've wondered about that because my ancestry is more Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, as I said, I've been very enamored with the Greeks since I was a child. But I do think there is something to, like, a Celtic temperament. I once told a friend, like, if you're the introverted Celtic temperament, they all want to hang out at the bar. But the introverted one will go crying in her beer, writing poetry in the corner, and the extroverted one will be, either starting a fight or singing a song in front of everybody. I think I have a little bit of that, a little bit of, there's a little bit of the melancholic, but also a little bit of the warrior, and then also the independent spirit. The Greeks were very clear-cut in all of their lines, and, the Celtics were a little bit messier. All of their goddesses don't fit into neat little categories.
Very true. They're multitaskers.
That's right. So perhaps, that has been part of my life, or growing up, on the West Coast in kind of a free-spirited time and place as well. But I do feel like the Celtic Goddess Tarot, which is the one that I'm working on now, is actually, I thought I was going to do a Greek Goddess Tarot, and I actually did several cards for that. And then it just was feeling more like an intellectual exercise in a way, because I studied them so much and I could just fill it all in, and I still would like to do that. But this one is more about the discovery and feeling about the discovery of the ancestry that's in my blood and in my bones as I work on it. It's also making me remember things, the magical things about my childhood that were very Celtic. For instance, that I talked to trees, or that my invisible friend was a white horse. So those things are, it's just been a very interesting process, and I love to do that, because I'm creating something as an expression of my soul, and so I can't let it be an empty or mechanical process. It has to be something that I am enchanted with and growing through and learning through as I do it, and then it's worth doing to me.
Wow. And I'm so looking forward to this Celtic Goddess Tarot. Y'all, she's posted a couple of pictures on Facebook, and we're in a couple of Facebook groups together, and I'm just going, yes, must have. And she's got a writing partner who is very well known also. So this is like a 1-2 punch coming, because it's Ellen and Lunea as like, wow. Could this get any better? It's like when you look at your, people play fantasy football. If I'm doing fantasy tarot, that's going to be one of my pairings. Oh, I think we should do that. I'm going to go do that in a group. I'm going to say, okay, fantasy pairing. Who would you pair up?
Oh, yeah, I'm super excited about that. Let's see. I moved up to Portland, Oregon about 11 years ago, and I came here, I don't know when. I'm very bad at time and space sometimes, but 5 or 6 years ago, I don't know. But, we knew each other before then, but since she's living here, we've become very good friends, and we've always talked for a while about doing something together, and then this was just where it all really gelled for us as the perfect project that we would both love to work on.
It's just dream stuff for me. Now, let me ask you this. What has been the most challenging thing for you about being a creative person in terms of making tarot decks, or just in terms of life?
I would say, it is finding the time and space and giving that priority, and, overcoming certain conditionings that say to give yourself priority is selfish, even if you're, working 10 hours for somebody else at the same time, or, it's ridiculous, right? So it's just having that time. And then I also have struggles with depression. I mean, that's happened since, I think I was 11 the first time I stared out at the window and wondered if I should keep on living.
Mm-hmm.
But, so struggling with the self-doubt, or is this worth anything, or does this mean anything to anybody besides me? Because I do want that. You know, it is something I do for myself, but it is also something that I want to share and want to see valued. And it doesn't have to be by everybody.
Yeah.
But if it's something that means so much to me and has helped me grow so much, and if I think that it might be able to help somebody else, then it's, or inspire somebody else, then yeah, you know, I wanted to get out there, but I can get into these real funks about, you know, I just look at it and I go, oh well, you know, what does that mean? You know? So then it is good to have your friends or whoever it is that say, no, that's good, or yeah.
Absolutely.
So I love that, you know, if I get little random out of the blue messages from somebody who says that my deck has been meaningful for them, you know, they don't know that really helps me keep going, and it's wonderful.
And it's really interesting to me that a lot of people I talk to in these interviews, depression is a really common theme. And I don't know if it's common to those people who are creative. And, you know, Stephen King said we must learn to kill our darlings, our little darlings, about being able to take your work and putting it out there, because people are not always the kindest. So getting that, you know, and your stuff is so neat. I love your work. So, but it's an interesting theme for me. I'm going to have to figure out a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is a hard world. It's a harsh world in a lot of ways. So I think that anybody who has any compassion or sensitivity, you know, much less, you know, crazy artistic ideas popping out of their brain, you know, but all of us who care about things, I think, are bound to get depressed sometimes, you know, and so we do need to find those antidotes to the despair, you know, if you find them by creation or connection or however you can. It's just so important. So we can keep going.
Yeah, and I think the connection's a big piece of it. I know that for me, because I live in a place where finding others who think like me is really difficult. When I say it's conservative, the town the closest to us has a side of a building is painted with Hillary Clinton is a satanic whore or something along those lines. I mean, it's just,
oh my God.
It's violent language and really direct and, you know, 3-foot letters. It's like,
oh my God.
Okay, so I'm taking it that you people are a little conservative. Okay. But, no, what do you think your spiritual practice, do you think that the way you walk your life day to day, does that reflect in your creative work, or is it vice versa? Is your creative work... That doesn't make sense, Arwen. Did that make sense? I just confused myself.
Oh, good. I'm not the only one.
No. I guess what I'm asking is, which did the chicken or the egg come first? How's that? You know, spirituality or creative process?
I would say that my spirituality is at the core of who I am.
Okay, good.
Because I mean, I can sometimes go weeks without doing anything creative. I don't like it when that happens, and I tend to get like unpleasant to be around after a while because the frustration builds up.
Yeah.
But there are times when that's just the way it has to be. There's too much else going on or whatever, you know. Even if I try and fit in a little tiny thing, like it's not like doing a whole tarot deck, but I'll, you know, crochet a fox hat for my grandbaby or something like that. You know, just a little something to work with my hands and my mind. But But the spirituality, I mean, there's not a day that goes by where that's not important to me. Where that relationship with my goddess or my soul or, whatever it is, that great mystery that we try and find but don't really know because we're just small little human brains, not great, mysterious, who knows what kind of brain or non-brain. But that I feel like my whole life is about wanting to understand that, even though I know I never will get all the way there. I just want to keep trying to figure it out and to be closer to it and to express it more in my own life. So that's always the central.
I love that. I think that it's just I hope people just back that up and listen to it one more time, because that's so real. It's so profound about how to live. How to live and take care of you. I'm not. Boy, my words are not working today. I'm having my own personal Mercury. But so I really also want to know. I always ask. This is like the last question I ask folks, and I want to know, what would you say to somebody who walked up to you, looked you dead in the eye, and said, "Ellen, I want to do what you do. I want to create." What's the best piece of advice you would give somebody who wants to launch themselves into creation and being a creative?
I would say you have to give it a priority. For years, I would say, I want to write a novel, or I want to whatever. But was I sitting down and writing for any regular time during the day or during the week or during the month or whatever you can carve out? I wasn't. It was still these other day-to-day things or other things in my life were taking a priority. And so I think that's one of the things. But then also what gave it priority for me was finding the project that really called to my soul, because then it's like, oh, okay, this is important, and it's, it gave it some oomph. But now I've realized that just creating, even if I do cut up pieces of paper and stick it on something and make a collage that then I put in the file cabinet and no one ever see, sometimes it's just so necessary to do it for my own self and my own health. So it's just being able to do it when you need to. It helps keep the creative juices going so you don't feel so stuck, but then keep looking for that project that will really carry you away and feels so important, and then it's easy to give it priority. Easier, let's say, since I don't know how busy everybody's lives are. Right?
Well, Ellen, thank you. So it feels like this time has just flown by. I'm like, wait, I haven't asked for everything I wanted to. But I really appreciate your giving us time. I'm going to show people links on how they can find your things and how to contact you and get in touch with your work. Basically, y'all go to darkgoddesstarot.com. Right. It's not dark. It's darkgoddesstarot.com. But I'll put links in the drop down so you can go. If you don't have any of her decks yet, Dark Goddess Tarot is my #1 pick. So go get it. And watch for Celtic the Celtic Goddess Tarot. I think that one's going to rival Dark Goddess just from what I've already seen. So I'm very excited to see that. And thank you so much.
But no pressure, right?
Right. Hey. With the two of you, with like my fantasy tarot team going, I'm going to win. But is there anything you'd like to?
It's pretty exciting.
Oh wow! Now, is there anything you'd like to say in closing? What's your last piece of words for us?
Oh gosh. Well, let's see. I could mention darkgoddesslodge.com.
Oh yeah.
Which is an online group that we study one of the Dark Goddess cards once a month, and I create a spread and a prayer for that, and Nancy Antonici records a meditation for that, which I love to do. So, it's always fun and easy when somebody else can do it instead of trying to do it for myself, which can sometimes work or not. But yeah, it's a wonderful community. So there's that. Yeah.
It is. When she says wonderful community, it's welcoming, it's warm, and you really go in deep in each month. So it's something. If you have a taste, a yearning, a hankering to go study with another group and really get into a deck, go join that group because it's wonderful. I've been a member, so I'm not saying this just because, yay, Ellen's great. No, I've been a member. So yes, yay, Ellen is great, but that's an excellent group, and part of it is the community. Part of it is you don't feel like you're just walking in as a stranger, and that's very nice.
That's great.
So
it's been wonderful talking with you, Arwen.
Thank you so much. And seek joy, Ellen. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.